we no longer know what our system of government is, because it's something about the people with money determining who can have enough money to even be in the primary and get through it. It's something about whatever Twitter's doing, whatever Facebook is doing, whatever other countries are doing, and whatever influencers on social media are doing, and whose lies are the most effective. Then, on top of that, we have this whole sham impeachment thing going on that will have probably an effect on the election. And what does a sham impeachment have to do with our system of government? So we have lost all connection to a form of government that ever made sense. It's now the Wild West. There's all kinds of stuff happening with social media, which you would expect about the election. So we've got Devin Nunes is suing Twitter for, I guess, allowing untrue things about him to remain on the internet. And I don't know the details of this. I guess he's claiming that Twitter can identify the bots, and because they're letting the bots spread disinformation about him, something like that. I don't know the details, but I'm just mentioning this as context. So that's going on. At the same time that Jack Dorsey had announced yesterday, I guess, that Twitter would no longer take political ads. And when I first heard that, I thought, I think I have to think about this some more, because I'm not sure, how does this affect the world? My first impression was positive, because I thought, just get rid of all these stupid ads. Because political ads are generally worthless lies. They're not entertaining. They barely change anybody's mind. But you only have to change 1% to win an election. And I thought maybe that's just the safest thing to do, because otherwise they're in the business of spreading lies, because political ads are pretty much just lies. And why should they be in the business of spreading lies? So I thought from a let's say ethical, what's good for the world kind of point of view, coming out in favor of not spreading known lies is kind of supportable, right? But the ramifications of that, we'll see. Brad Parscale was not happy, the head of Trump's campaign and the digital guru of all things. He points out correctly that the campaign who has the most money and the most sophisticated, best digital operation is the one who gets hurt the most. Because if you have the most money to buy ads and then somebody says you can't buy ads anymore, well, that hurts you the most. So then other people are saying, can you imagine that Twitter would ever make this decision if we were not in this exact situation where Trump had the advantage? Would he? Would he not? I don't know. It seems like we would probably be here no matter what, because no matter who was running and no matter who was ahead, you'd still have the problem that the ads are lies, and why would you want them on your platform? Even though social media is full of citizens lying, it's sort of different when people who want to be president are lying. But here's the thing. When Twitter says it won't accept political ads, the way Jack Dorsey explains it is, he says, we don't want to be selling reach. So when you put an ad on Twitter, it's not as if you can't just do a tweet. So the president can tweet an ad, or he can tweet anything he wants, and anybody who creates an ad, they can tweet it. They just can't pay extra to have it sent to people who are not following that account. But I would ask you, if you were Brad Parscale's operation and the tweets that you make are both hilarious and well-produced, you probably get a lot of retweets just for free. But what you don't get is that content crossing out of your silo of the people who follow you already and basically are already going to vote for Trump. You just don't get any of the other people because nobody's paying attention. They're not following you necessarily. I think the president might be an exception. He probably has people who are not his followers following him. I mean, he has people who don't vote for him following him, I assume, lots of them. So maybe he can tweet stuff and that gives him some advantage. But it's going to be hard to figure out how this all sorts out. And at the same time, we've got Facebook, Zuckerberg, saying he's going to go the other direction. He's still going to accept political ads. But in his case, he says they don't want to be in the business of policing truth, and he would rather keep the fake, untrue ads up there. And I assume this is what he means, let other people comment on it and say it's not true. And that's, the best disinfectant for lies is free speech in this model. He didn't say that, but that's my interpretation, is that the more free speech, the better, and that's your only defense against lies, is maximum freedom of speech. Is he right? I don't know. All these things are pretty gray, aren't they? Because, so now Twitter went a different way, which seems cleaner. I think I prefer, I don't know. They both made, I think both Twitter and Facebook have made reasonable decisions that reasonable people can disagree with. It's all really gray. And I don't envy them having to even make these decisions because there's sort of no way to win. But let me put a summary on all of these social media changes. The net effect, wait for this will be my big jaw-dropping moment that you have to think about all day long. Are you ready? The net effect of all these Twitter, Facebook, advertising, etc. changes is we don't know what form of government we have. Because I've told you before that we used to be something like a republic when the government was formed, and that meant we would elect people who would be our representatives and they would go off and make decisions on our behalf. Really good system when your best communication is a horse. Here, take this letter on your horse 3 days later and deliver it somewhere. So in those days, it made sense to have a republic because you didn't have an option. There was no way to get everybody to vote on everything, etc. Time goes by, social media becomes the dominant way that people communicate and find news and just live their life. And it completely accidentally, the power of social media became the government. So that's my interpretation, that whatever social media decides the government needs to do, sooner or later the government needs to do it. So we're at a point where the government is now not a republic where we elect these people and then they make their own best judgment about how to support their people. We have a system in which social media makes a decision, in essence, because it forms some kind of a consensus. It informs the politicians what they can and cannot get away with. And then they sort of have to conform. Now, of course, there'll be exceptions. There'll be times when the politician goes against the weight of social media, but those will be very selective times because they know they can't always be on the wrong side of social media. So in effect, social media is our government, informally, because it has so much power of opinion, power to shape the next election, power. But now we don't know what social media is or how it works, because the two biggest platforms, the ones that matter to politics, Facebook and Twitter, have made changes that are different changes, and we don't exactly know. Once you throw in the bots, once you throw in, I don't know what this does when you can't buy reach, what does it do to the way the campaigns are going to operate? We actually lost sight of what our government is, and now it's lost in the algorithm. Think about this. We actually don't understand, nor is it possible. The smartest person in the world, at this moment, the smartest person in the world would not be capable, no matter how much research they did or how much access they had to base information. The smartest person in the world now could not determine our form of government because it's something with bots. Certainly it includes foreign interference because we can't stop it on social media. I mean, you can do what you can do, but you can't stop it. Then there's the algorithm of Twitter and, the no ads. What's that look like? Who gets an advantage in that? I mean, it's completely, gray. We just look into it. We go, well, I don't know. It looks like it's bad for Trump, but what about the next election? Who's it bad for? I don't know. Let me take it a little bit further. So in the news today, there's news that Kamala Harris is running out of money, or at least she's decided to scale back her campaign and spend less because she's not fundraising as big as well as the top people. Likewise, Biden is considered in trouble because he's running out of money. Now let me ask you, who voted for Kamala yet? And who voted for Joe Biden yet? Nobody. Nobody voted for Kamala. Nobody voted for Joe Biden. And they might have to get kicked out of the primaries, in effect, by running out of money. So let me ask you this. Do we have a system of government that's a republic in which the people vote, and then their vote is heard, and then our representative goes off and makes votes on their behalf? Nope. Nope, we do not. We have a system in which the people who are donating are absolutely deciding who's running. And what system does that look like? What system are you reminded of in which there's a free election, but there's a catch? The only people who can be in the election have been sort of selected by a small group. What does that system remind you of? Answer, Iran. I just described Iran's system of government. In Iran, you can run for president, but only if the ruling clerics, primarily the Ayatollah, say you can run. So the only people who get to be on the ballot are the ones selected, not by the people, but by somebody in charge. We've accidentally drifted into something like that system, where the only people who can run as a Democrat will be the ones who get the most money. Now, Bernie tried to break the system by getting small donations, and successfully. And apparently he's still drawing the most people at his rallies. The fact that an 80-year-old socialist is drawing the most attention at his rallies and getting the small donations and stuff is really a credit to Bernie. I got to say, while I don't think he should be president, I don't think he's got the right policies, et cetera, and I don't want an 80-year-old to be president, you have to respect his game. My God, he's good. And his energy, his recovery from his heart attack. It's hard not to have a good degree of respect for Bernie, even if you don't want him to be president. He's doing a heck of a job. But here's my overall point. We no longer know what our system of government is, because it's something about the people with money determining who can have enough money to even be in the primary and get through it. It's something about whatever Twitter's doing, whatever Facebook is doing, whatever other countries are doing, and whatever influencers on social media are doing, and whose lies are the most effective. Then, on top of that, we have this whole sham impeachment thing going on that will have probably an effect on the election. And what does a sham impeachment have to do with our system of government? Was there any time when the founders of the country were drawing up the Constitution and they said, you know what we need? We have a rule for impeachment, but what we need is something else. We also need a rule for a sham impeachment. An impeachment that's just a sham, where they don't use the actual rules of impeachment, but rather they pretend they are to create news that makes the public think there's an impeachment process going on. No, it's not an impeachment. Today we're gonna vote on the rules of impeachment. If there were an impeachment, we'll know what our rules would be. Now, what's the public here? Well, sounds like he's getting impeached. So we have lost all connection to a form of government that ever made sense. It's now the Wild West. And in the Wild West, the best gunfighter is going to win. And who's the best gunfighter in politics today? Rhetorical question. Trump. Trump is by far the best gunfighter in the Wild West, and politics just became Wild West. I don't think anybody's going to beat the best gunfighter, especially if he gets a hero dog for the White House.